Hello and welcome to the CrossFit Pittsburgh origin story. Thought the best place to start would be
The beginning.
the beginning. So, with me today is my beautiful daughter Alexandra, and she was actually quite probably one of our member number one at the age of 5.
5.
Cinco. And that's actually a pretty funny part of the origin story, but kind of like our timeline. And believe me, this is going to be broken up into segments because we've got some fun guests throughout our beginnings, right? And of course, my wife Jennifer, she will be a big part of this, is and was a big part of the origin, but she's not here today due to family commitments, and so we thought we'd launch. First time I ever heard of CrossFit was July of 2004, my first deployment to Baghdad, and I was complaining about my workouts. I had turned 40 the year prior in Tel Aviv, Israel, and I had been doing the same training for forever, body parts, right? Back and biceps one day, chest and triceps the next, and that kind of thing. And I was in the dining facility on the Presidential Palace compound in Baghdad, downtown Baghdad, and I was complaining to one of my teammates about my workouts. And real matter of fact, he just said, "Well, have you ever heard of CrossFit?" I had not. So he's like, "Hey, check it out, CrossFit.com." And their original website was a very, very basic website. So it was great because it had everything you needed, nothing that you didn't. So I go and I look at it, and the workout of the day for that day, it just said deadlifts, 1-1-1-1- for 10. I didn't even know what that meant. All right. So in the comments, sure enough, somebody's like, "Hey, I'm new here. What does that mean?" Somebody else posts, "Oh, that means you do deadlifts, 10 sets of 1 rep." Great. So I gave it a try. And, with an open mind, I was like, I've never trained like this before. And I don't. And back then, it was just that to the point. It was like 10 sets of 1. Here you go. So I gave it my best effort. I even went onto YouTube to make sure I understood what a deadlift was. Well, now CrossFit reference materials, they're everywhere. They're on the main website. It'll break down day to day, like this is how you do this is how you do that. Back then they didn't have that. So I did a good warm up, and I progressed through 10 single deadlifts. And it's a strength biased workout, that one. It's like the next day, I didn't feel like I was breathing heavy during the workout, but the next day I felt like I had just been hammered. Every muscle in my rear delts, my rear delts were sore. The muscles in my feet were sore. Everything. And it was a really, really challenging workout. And I became that guy right there that was like, how do you know somebody does CrossFit? That's all they ever talk about. And then the teammate of mine, what's that?
It's their whole personality.
Exactly. But fortunately for me, the teammate of mine who told me about it was kind of the same way. So, "Hey, did you do this? But I think one of my favorites was when I started talking to Mom, and I was telling her, and we're back and forth, whether over the phone or we had good cellular connectivity back then because of who I worked for. But streaming wasn't the way it is now. You didn't have the technology. I think we tried like Yahoo Messenger a couple times, and we could either hear each other
or see each other.
Yeah,
but never both.
The video would freeze if you could hear good,
Mm-hmm.
and if you couldn't hear well, if the audio wasn't working, you could see each other. Like, mm-hmm. I'd see you guys jumping around in the background and all that. But what I started to do was just through email, I would send Mom workouts like a week in advance, but I would go backwards, and I'd get like last week's workout, and I'd translate everything. I'd scale it for her, and I'd put in descriptions and all that, and I'd send it to her. And then I started buying equipment and sending it to the house. And she would work out between the home gym and then step out onto the patio for the wall balls and all that kind of stuff. And I swear, I think it was my first trip home, we had all this stuff that she had not unpacked yet, like a 15-foot climbing rope. Do you remember the first rope we had?
No, I don't think so.
We hung it up on a tree in the backyard.
And the house we're in now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
And that was one of my favorite stories, was after I went back, I think back to Iraq, I'm talking to Mom one day, and she was like, yeah, so get this. She was like, I'm mowing the lawn, and I'm back and forth in a real straight rows across the backyard. And she said, I swore I heard Alexandra go, Mom. And she looks around, but she doesn't turn off the mower. She looks around. She sees Michael in his little, because he was just a baby, right? And Emily's running around, and Michael's in his little seat. And she's like, she thought it was her imagination. So she goes and does another couple passes. Mom! Now she realizes it is you. And she's like, what in the world? Shuts off the lawnmower, looks up, and you're up at the top of the rope. Like you climbed up to the top, and you're just like locked off with your feet, and you're like, Mom! Not calling for help, not calling because you don't know how to get down. You just stayed up there until you got her attention so you could wave at her. And I was like, that is really, really cool.
I don't think I knew that story.
Oh, yeah. True story. Because that was like at 5 years old.
Yeah.
Right? So then 2 years later, I was in Afghanistan, and I want to say November of 2007, we were asked to host a level 1 certificate course. And we're like, yeah, absolutely. Because back then, they didn't do them like they do now. Now it's every weekend, all over the world. It's much more. It was organized back then. I don't take anything away from that, but
it's
now
more involved now, probably.
Yeah, yes, much more involved and global. It's absolutely global. And now you have the training cadre that there are so many of them, and all very well trained, and they'll just they'll go out and hit numbers. Where back when we did it, it was Greg Glassman and the headquarters crew. So we hosted Coach, Nicole Carroll, Dave Castro, Tony Budding was media at the time, Savan. Remember, he came and did the what they call it, the Ass Whooping Chronicles.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Whoop ass CrossFit or.
Ass Whipping. I think it's Ass Whipping Chronicles. I'm not sure, but yeah.
We do some recon.
Do a little bit of what do you call it? Due diligence. Right. I think it is the Ass Whooping. Look at CrossFit Pittsburgh Ass Whooping Chronicles. Because remember the premise that he used to do was, oh my God, was it funny? He would come in, and he would go head to head with a coach, and they would make a chipper workout. We'd make the workout up on the spot, and then they would, and I swear, I think somewhere in our video.
Ass Whooping Pittsburgh Part 1, 12 years ago.
Yeah. There you go.
That is our gym. There. Our old Jeep.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's awesome.
You know what else is funny?
There's Jackie.
If I'm not mistaken, it's the beginning of that video. So what is it again? Ass Whooping?
Ass Whooping Part 1. We had 3
Does it have
parts,
does it say, is it CrossFit Pittsburgh Ass Whooping Chronicles?
No, it says Ass Whooping Pittsburgh Part 1.
Ass Whooping Pittsburgh Part 1. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm not mistaken, that's the one that starts out where they're driving.
Yeah.
They're driving over the viaduct in their rental vehicle, and they're videoing out the window, and they're playing the theme from The Sopranos in the background.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You remember how the viaduct used to have that scrapyard down below it?
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And snowflakes are coming in, it was late November, right? And snowflakes are coming in real big. Maybe not late November, but November in Pittsburgh, anything's possible, weather-wise. But am I right?
I found me.
Yes.
At the end of it.
At the end. Now, is that part 3, I think?
Part 3.
So that same level 1 at our gym was broken down for YouTube. It's broken down into 3 parts. And the coolest part, I mean, it was a great weekend all the way around, but one of the things I remember vividly was um, my mother-in-law had our kids for the weekend, and at the end of the weekend, like we're just, wrapping things up, everybody's saying their goodbyes and all that. But the way they did it back then with no training cadre, they would reach out to neighboring affiliates. And back then, there weren't that many of us. So for that certificate course, they had CrossFit Boston, Neil and his crew from CrossFit Boston, Keith and CrossFit New York City, Doug and Hyperfit from Ann Arbor, Michigan. They like all came in and like converged on Pittsburgh and made up the instructors. CrossFit Reston from Virginia crew came up from there. And it was wild because you had all these things stacked going on at the same time. Excuse me. Mom and I were coaches, trainers for the cert. But so in other words, like we're teaching the attendees so that they get their L1. There's another tier of instructors above us who are judging us so that we get our L2.
Oh, interesting.
And headquarters is watching them.
So they get their L3.
So they get their L3 all at the same time. It was crazy. And that weekend, these will all be standalone episodes of the podcast at some point. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. The experience, I would not trade it for anything. But to wrap up, what was wild was the rope climb in the backyard, like in 2005, right? The end of that weekend, you rolled in with my mother-in-law was watching the kids. I think I mentioned that. So wrapping everything up, everybody's saying their goodbyes, and the garage door in the front of the box was open. So all of a sudden, I see our car pull up because Bubby took Mom's car for the weekend, so it had the kids' seats in it, right? She's getting Michael out of the car. You and Emily just come running across. You see me and Mom, and we're actually talking to Coach at the time, right? We're talking with Greg, and we're standing right by the climbing ropes. And you guys ran right up, gave us big hugs and everything, and we're talking, and Coach is like, hey, and who's this? And I was like, oh, Coach, this is Alexandra, and this is Emily. And you're both like, hi. And I don't know what popped into my head, but I was like, hey, sweetheart, show Coach what you can do with the rope. And I think it's in the video. You just like drop your jacket.
I'm wearing an all pink outfit, which is very on brand.
Yeah, I mean, that's your signature color.
Yeah. Pink sweatsuit, white sneakers. Climbed up. I think I tapped it and climbed
like
right back
you climbed
down.
up like she'd been doing it forever, like
That's so
the CrossFitter you are.
Yeah.
Climbs up, boom, touches off the beam and scurries back down. And as soon as your feet hit the ground, Coach looks at you and he goes, sweetheart, don't ever stop doing that. That was one of the coolest moments.
It says future of ass whooping.
Yeah. Yeah, the future of ass whooping. But yeah, I mean, it was great, and that's the kind of culture that I've always felt CrossFit creates. I think it attracts it. It attracts that type of person, whether they're kind of in their shell or not. Like people gravitate to well, I guess a lot of different nuances, right? Some people just try it for the novelty of, I've heard about it, I never tried it. Other people are like, no, I need something different. And that's me. That was me. Like I need something different because what I've been doing is no longer productive. I mean, I guess arguably you could say, well, it's working, it's better than nothing, but it wasn't much better than nothing. I felt like my workouts back then at 40 years old, I'm like, I'm going through the motions, and but I think it attracts a diverse group of people, everybody for their own reasons. Mm-hmm. But for watching you at that age where you're climbing a rope because it's fun, you're climbing a rope because it's there, right? Mm-hmm. And then I remember over the years, you didn't really do it like religiously or consistently, but You know,
but I knew I could.
Yeah.
And that was always like,
Do you wanna go?
No, I don't.
You sure?
But it was always, if we would have a party or we would have people over at our house, people would come over and they'd look at the rope and like dare each other. You know, like high school boys were like, oh, can you climb the rope? Can you climb the rope? Whatever. And then mom would come out and go, Alexandra can climb the rope. And she would always show it off to everyone. Like, it didn't matter who they were. If they were talking about it, she was like, my daughter can do it.
Yeah.
She'd like, get on up there. And half the time I was doing it without my shoes, which is a terrible mistake.
But the funny part about it was, right? Strength to weight ratio, you could do it.
Yeah.
Right? And shoes only become a factor when you have to, if you have to pinch the rope to slow your descent, you know, which, you might want to wear shoes.
Yeah.
But
didn't feel great.
I think, you know, there's a lot of potential like philosophy here too, you know, don't stop doing that, because if you stop doing it, you may never do it again. Right. Or the ability to do it. And again too, like the some of the more subtleties I think of CrossFit become, and anybody who's done it long enough will tell you, you might have even experienced this, you know, hey, did you hear that?
Mm-hmm. That was loud.
You know what? It sounded like a sonar on a submarine for a minute. I'm like, I hope we're not being invaded. Does Iran have submarines? You know what? Doesn't matter. You know why? Because we are the United States goddamn Navy. That's why. That's right. Anyway, not sure what that bing was, but oh well. The show must go on. But I think that's it. You know, any CrossFitter will tell you, hey, you have muscle ups? Yes or no. If you don't, you develop them. If you do, great. But sometime or other in a CrossFit athlete's career path, like you have them, then all of a sudden you're like, I lost them. Excuse me. And it was not a fluke. It was not a fluke that you got one by accident. But I have seen this happen if you switch your focus. If all of a sudden, like, well, I haven't really been doing gymnastics, you know, but I put on 20 pounds and I'm stronger. Yeah, well, that 20 pounds you put on at the expense of your gymnastic skills, right? So I think that's the essence of it, though. CrossFit is balance, you know? Like a real good friend of mine, I don't like to name last names on the podcast. We'll just call him Danny. But according to Danny, football is life.
Oh, my God.
Right? And I agree with him. But, you know, I look at it and I say, CrossFit is life. You know? You think, that's not funny. Danny's a good guy. You know him.
I love Danny.
Right? Football is life. Yeah. Anyway, what was the name of the dog that he killed?
I don't remember.
He had it written on his boots.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, don't you remember? In one episode, like he went to take a penalty kick.
I forgot about
And
that.
like the dog's name, like R.I.P. You know,
Yeah.
whatever. Anyway, listen, we're not laughing at the death of a dog. It was an accident, right? But anyway, football is life. CrossFit is life, and it's a better quality of life, and that's a fact. And now, so fast forward, you're no longer that like 6-7-year-old kid climbing a rope just because it's there. You know, now you're an L1 coach at Pittsburgh's first affiliate. What are we now, 18? 18, yeah.
18 years?
Like 18 years old. CrossFit Pittsburgh is now eligible to vote. We are legal.
But not allowed to drink.
Not allowed to drink.
We can also serve
That's
in the
why
armed forces.
we consume quantities of Jocko Go. Why? Because when we do, we don't yawn like that. You should crack one open.
I've
Listen.
had too much caffeine today.
Pink mist. So it's a scandalous blend of pink lemonade, which, you know what's funny about pink lemonade? I'll tell you. Nothing. It's nothing's funny about it. It's lemonade. It's lemonade. This is a true story. And if we wanted to fact check it, we could, but I don't care. Right? Allegedly, pink lemonade started, did you know this?
Yes.
At a carnival.
Yep.
It was like a trapeze artist wearing a red leotard.
Fell into the vat of lemonade.
Yeah, fell in a vat of lemonade. Listen, even if it didn't happen, because to be honest, I'm a little skeptical. What are the odds? what are the odds that that vat of, there's just big, how big was it? Right?
Who knows?
I mean, I don't know. I've never. That's a lot of people that would drink lemonade in a vat that big. But supposedly, a trapeze artist
Plus, it was a very tiny trapeze artist.
Very small,
Mm-hmm.
like that Elton John song, "Hold Me Closer," Tony Danza.
Tony Danza. It must have been Tony Danza.
Must have been Tony Danza in a red leotard.
Tony Danza.
And he fell off the trapeze into the lemonade, hence creating thereby.
Is that Michael's handwriting? That looks like a
is,
toddler.
I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but
Where?
so on the window here into the next like the conference area here, when the light's off in the other room, I'll use that window as like a dry erase board. Right now, the walls are painted white, the ceiling's painted white. The last color you should use on that would be white. All right, so got a little to-do list that's just due to necessity, white was the only color glass marker I had up here. So got a couple things there. So my son was up here over Christmas break, and he wrote, he told me what it means, and I'm not even sure. Wormst. And it's like some kind of gaming thing or something. You could be the fact checker. You could check facts, not FAX, facts.
Fax
Do they still have fax machines? You know what I'm going to do? I'm doing this. It's going to be a thing. I'm going to bring back the fax, and I'm also going to bring back, you probably don't even know what this is, but if you're a guy and you grew up in the 70s, post to comments, the hot comb. You know what a hot comb is? Mm-hmm. Do you really?
It's a hot comb.
All right, Smarty. So back in the day, I didn't ask for it, right? My mom bought it for me as like a stocking stuffer one Christmas. I'm like, you know how much care I've taken in my hair over the years? I shampoo regularly. Well, except when it was like long and luscious. You know what I'm saying? Well, because then I took care of it. Like I conditioned it. I did I had my guy just like cut with the ends, like to strengthen. That's the thing. You do that.
You do?
Yeah, but yeah. So anyway, a hot comb. I'm gonna bring back I'm not even gonna bring back the fax because that's just stupid. But anyway, man, we got off point.
Yeah, you did.
Right. So, but you're CrossFit or you're not, and I think that's a fair assessment.
I think it's a fair assessment.
But I also believe this. There's no reason that everybody can't be. Anybody can be. It's as versatile and adaptable, right? I guess that's what I'm getting at.
I agree, but there does come to a point where you need to be mentally involved. You need to be mentally there because you can only modify so much, and if your coach is giving you modification after modification and you're still like, well, that's not going to work, well, then it might just not be for you, and you should find something else.
Absolutely. No, I agree. But I think that's where like the divergence is between like, you just don't want to be here.
Right.
Right. So not for you, meaning you just really don't want to do this.
Correct.
Whereas if you want to do it,
mm-hmm.
you can.
You'll find a way to do it.
Yeah, you can. And the coaches at, one of the things, and I think we've earned the right to say this as an 18-year affiliate, I could not be more proud of where the community is going, where the community is, where it came from. I always loved it. I'm always proud to be a part of it. Always. That never wavered, not once. But when I look, one of our friends who used to be one of the certification staff, awesome, Denise, so cool. And she used to come here quite a bit, like in a different, rotations. Sometimes you see a lot of the same faces when they send the trainers here. But I remember she and I had this conversation, and I said, what's wild is looking at how infrequently they used to have the L1s, L2 and L3, like the structure in place was a little bit different, how to get that. But the L1s were like maybe months in between. And if you were lucky, there was one. If there was one, if you were lucky, it was close enough to you that you could get to it, you know. And to see the evolution of how, you know, they've trained up a crew, and when they send the red shirts, like I like to call them, you know, when they get here, there are no weak links. It's a fantastic program. It's a great team, and it's nice to see familiar faces. It's great to see old friends cycle through, and when you meet like the next wave, you know, like the new trainers that are coming through, the caliber is tier one. I mean, there's no doubt about it, and I'm extremely proud to be a part of that, and to kind of be around from the beginning and to see that how it's evolved. You know, it's just been great. And sitting here today, it is really wild. Like, my intent was to have episode 1 of our origin story be with Mom, because, you know, I don't even want to tell some of the stories without her. Hey, you know, we should open an affiliate. And she's like, yeah, we should talk about that. I think it was that afternoon I leased a building, and I didn't intend. I mean, I was driving to visit. Hey, listen, Smarty. I was going. You guys were little, and it was a beautiful sunny afternoon. I was between deployments, and I'm like, hey, I'm just going to stop at my mom and dad's for a little bit to say hi, you know. And do you remember? The yellow Corvette? A little '68 convertible.
I remember.
Yeah, I bought and didn't tell Mom.
You seem to do that a lot.
Because sometimes she says no. So, listen, and don't tolerate this from a spouse. I'll tell you this right now. And you potentially know who I'm talking about. I swear to... Anyway, don't tolerate this, right? But I remember, yeah, that was crazy. Oh, but anyway, so I'm like, it's a beautiful day. I'm going to go visit Mom and Dad, throw the top down, boom, and I saw an old automotive garage, and leased it that day. But anyway, that's for the episode that Mom is here to, because I want to get her reaction. I want to see. I hope I don't wake up a sleeping bear. You know, she's like, that's right. You son of a sailor. She could unleash Hades on me. She could. You know, she has.
Yep.
You know what I'll do to all my viewers out there? When I address this with my beautiful wife, and she is beautiful, when I address it with her, if it's going bad, because she'll be sitting in the co-host seat, if I start to do this, no, that's I do that all the time.
You do that anyway.
If I do like a no, because you can't see if I'm blinking. You know what I'll do? I'll do a POW tap code. If I start doing this, rhythmic, if it sounds like the theme from the Partridge Family, you know what? In a panic, I probably won't remember the theme from the Partridge Family. I'll be doing like Mr. Eddie's Father or something. You don't even know any of these shows. You weren't even a twinkle. You weren't. I wasn't anyway. So that was a good story. But I think what's really wild is watching that episode and the caption on the last one, part 3.
Yeah.
The future of ass whooping, and it's you at like 6. Something like that, 7, yeah. And here it is, you know. So
compare it to my videos of me climbing the rope now, at 23.
Yeah, right. But I mean, that's the thing. Like that, you, Coach put it out there, right? The future of ass whooping, and boom, and now you're an L1 and you're coaching here for us, and you know, like we're taking this thing to the next level, which is awesome. But you go back to that first L1 course. This is funny, and I don't know if you knew, you know, when I was deployed and you guys were little, the wild part about it was because of who I worked for, it was government, it wasn't military. So like all of my teammates, we could live wherever we wanted, and we just had to deploy when it was our time, right? So really, if we lived in a military town, I think you all, even at that young age, would have been a lot more aware of what was happening. And all you guys knew in the beginning was, oh, Daddy works far away. That was it, you know, which was great. That was the way your mom and I wanted it. And be kind of selective how I put this together, but it was November. It was November of 2004. So you were little. I mean, you were 4 years old, right? Emily was 2. Michael wasn't even born yet. And 2004, we're in Iraq. Right, I mean, maybe weeks before my first trip home, and we had some colleagues at a different agency. Not sure what that is, but when that happens,
Gosh.
huh? Right? I'm like, God? No. Anyway, I had some colleagues from another agency, all right? And we crossed paths with them a lot, and they were really, really good dudes. And their team leader, Tom was his first name, TJ. He went by TJ. So we crossed paths quite a bit. Now, bear in mind that depending on where everybody flies in at that time. For the most part, everybody would fly into Baghdad, and then they would kind of disperse from there. Balad was another major hub, and but really a lot of the activity was around Baghdad, in and around. So you'd fly into there usually, and then get a helo out to different outposts. So saw them frequently, and then we knew they were still in country, but they were kind of like out of the area. So great. So fast forward, I think probably some hadn't seen them since summer. So November 2004, we've got a run to take, and we're taking a kid, one of our kids, like the youngsters, the techs, we're taking him back. But because of all the gear that he had to take with him, we had to take him over the road. So we're like, all right, the op tempo at the time, we deemed it to be safe and all that. So we brief our mission, we load him up, and we're like, all right, here we go. I wish you could see this. I'm not sure what just happened, but a little animated cartoon bubble just popped up on the screen with a thumbs up in it. And I'm like, it's there again. Oh, you know what? Wonder if it's mimicking because I did that.
That might be.
What kind of witchcraft is going on here? It's crazy. I'm putting my hands right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I make some other kind of sign, and like, who knows what pops up. It's craziness. Your mom would, right? That's what I'm saying. Right? Anyway, so long story short, we brief our mission, we take our run out, we drop our kid off, and he's a real good guy. And as we unload him in his gear, he's like, hey guys, could we get a team picture? I'd really like a picture with you. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Right? So we pose for this team picture with him right in the middle, and we're lined up around him, and we get somebody in the area there to take a picture of us. Great. So we get back in our vehicles, and this is not. It's for those of you who may be familiar with Iraq back at that time. It's Route Irish, was a highway between downtown Baghdad and the airport. And it was literally a straight shot. I used to know the miles. I don't anymore, but it's not a long drive. It's not like here, getting to the airport from here. It's like, it's not even like getting from here from home to the mall. I mean, it's short, right? So as we roll in to the annex to pick our guy up, we fuel the vehicles, we brief, we roll into the annex to pick up our kid. And who do I see at curbside but TJ and his guys? So we get out of the truck to load our boy, and I'm like, hey, brother. I'm like, it's been a minute. How are you? He's like, hey, man, good to see you. Gives me a bro hug, and he goes, you're still here. He's like, you haven't been blown up yet? Dark humor, right? And as serious as can be, I look at him and I go, not yet, but you know what? Might be today. So we drop our guy, we get back in our vehicles, and we're rolling back into the green zone. And we get hit by this little bastard in a white Toyota Corolla loaded with explosives. Suicide bomber, right? There's 3 lanes of traffic coming inbound, 3 lanes coming out. And I'm in the lead vehicle in the passenger seat. So I'm giving a running commentary to our follow vehicle, which is supposed to be safely behind us. And we're not moving slow, but the running commentary, I'm like, all right, the on-ramp, the ramp is clear to the right. Nothing in front of us, steady traffic outbound. Heavy traffic, all 3 lanes coming out, nothing going in. we're up on this overpass, and sure as hell, the Army used to move the Jersey barriers, those big concrete dividers you see sometimes during road construction. The Army sometimes would move them so that they can get their Humvees around without taking the exits. One had been moved, hadn't been put back. So this nut job is in the far left lane, his far right, our far left. Steady traffic outbound. Talk about timing and divine intervention. He shoots across the other lanes of traffic, comes right through the gap in the Jersey barriers, hits our vehicle on the move, and sets himself off. Right? I got a great picture of the truck somewhere. It's like, it's destroyed. We're okay. But what was funny was, once we, had our contact after and all this kind of stuff, was, we get back to the green zone. Now, thank God, and only by the hand of God, nobody's hurt. We're banged up a little, but we're okay. We get back, well, TJ and his guys had already loaded up and moved on to their next base of operation, right? So that's November of 2004. November of 2007, Saturday morning, we rolled in for our L1 at our box. We opened since then, right? Now think about this. You remember when I used to come home with long hair and a heavy beard? And then like maybe the first week, get a haircut, shave my beard? We're in the room and we're in the workout space. And we're looking around and there's a nice big crowd. And I'm looking across and I see this guy. And I'm like, and he's kind of looking at me the same way I'm looking at him. And I'm like, I know this guy from somewhere, but for the life of me, I can't place where, right? So as we're kind of mingling before the event got underway, he makes his way over. I'm like, man, I'm sorry. I know you. I just don't know from where. He does a double take and he goes, Rocky. And as soon as he says that, and I can tell by his smile, I'm like, TJ, because now he's got a name tag on that says Tom, right? And that was him. So I tell Mom, I'm like, you're not going to believe this. That guy over there, I'm like, you remember that story I told you? So a little bit later, like on our first break, I bring him over and I'm like, hey man, let me introduce you to my wife. And I'm like, honey, this is TJ. And real matter of fact, she goes, you're the guy that almost got my husband killed. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, I felt so bad about that. Superstition, But that's a crazy story. That's a story for another time. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that is maybe how much of our story. Like, but I think the coolest part was, you were there from day one. You were there. And in fact, I mean, you were there from day one. Emily, of course. Michael is as old as the box. No.
He's older.
He's about a year, right? A year older, right? I don't know. Is it like inappropriate to tell his origin story? How he used to run around the workout room and...
He's third on the totem pole.
Third what?
Child on the totem pole. His story comes last.
Yeah. Probably maybe not even.
Yeah.
I can say this though. Emily's CrossFit... Emily was just always so sweet. She was like, every once in a while she'd come out, run around, play. When we built the climbing wall at the first location, mm-hmm. and I would get you guys in your harnesses and like I'd be on the rope, the belay rope. I think she was the first one that like thought it was funny. She'd climb up and I'd take out the slack and she skitters up the, for you guys at your size at that time, that was a pretty
big, yeah.
high wall, right? And when I tested it out and I'd get you a little bit off the ground and I'd show you how I could like, don't worry, you could, if you fall, I got you. Then she thought it was funny to get to the top of the wall and just like launch herself backwards. And I'm like, like, honey, I don't think she understood physics. She could launch herself backwards, but then I'm like, stick your feet out. Because she's going to swing back into the wall, That was fun, though. The climbing wall was fun. All right, so it's about that time to get ready to coach our 5:30 class this afternoon. So get a couple more and get you up to speed with where we started, where we are now. But thanks for joining us. It's been fun and kind of curious and excited to see where the next 18 years takes us. What do you think?
Yep.
Yep. You actually checking text messages.
I'm getting weird follow requests and ignoring them.
Oh, listen, I'll put this out for free. Send my daughter a weird follow request on social media. I will find you. I will smite you. Look it up. It's a thing.
S-M-I-T-E. Smite. In case you didn't know.
In case you didn't know how to spell it, you ignorant son of a sailor. No, I reserve son of a sailor as a compliment. Don't get on them. Yeah, anyway.
All right, I'm out.
All right, we got to go. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll have some more shortly. Thank you.